Hello, Dr. Richter here with a very quick introduction into what it means to be omega-3 balanced. Only Zinzino can achieve that because we have fortified the very fragile omega-3 with a very high content of polyphenols. That is a specialty and a patent. There's a lot of technology that goes into fish oil, and this is not just your average fish oil. It has a very high EPA content and a very high polyphenol content. And we are testing. So I will explain the test and what it means. And that's how you know that this product is working. So when you look at omega-3 levels, just divide the population. This is not supplementation, just dividing the population. Some people will have a very high omega-3 index, although it's getting much less and less. And most people now test in the red at 2% omega-3. So 3% isn't even the norm anymore. This is your 100% chance of heart disease, and you will see how it goes towards a zero or a very, very low level when you reach 9 or 10% omega-3. So how does this work? We have known this for over 70 years now. Danish studies looked at the Eskimos. They have a very, very low heart attack rate, and we're wondering why. And they looked at their omega-6 to 3 index, meaning 6 is inflammatory, very high index in the US, very high heart attack rate. And guess what? This is now on a linear curve between the two of them. The other tribes in Canada and the Anhui in Japan are directly on this curve. So a very high inflammatory index resulting from a very low level of omega-3 and a high level of 6 gets you your 100% high chance of heart disease. That is the number one cause of death. Again, we've published this in thousands and thousands of articles, and we've known this now for a long time. This value of 8% isn't made up. It is a very, very solid number. You need 8% of omega-3 to be safe. Then you are basically starting to heal. Your immune system works, your arteries are flexible, and your blood pressure, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, all is related to this. Again, most people test in this 100% risk 2% area. That is your starting value, and only with Zinzino you will reach 8%. Then you can look at uh, your risk factors in a different way. It is not a linear problem. This is a recent study. And again, we are looking at 70 years of thousands of publications. And, the sad thing is, why doesn't your doctor know this? And the doctor that you are seeing does not know his own omega-3 index. But bottom line is you have a exponential risk of all-cause mortality, cancer mortality, and of course, cardiovascular disease, the number one cause of disease when you have an inflammatory index of over 20 to 1. And that is what everybody is testing at now. We grew up on a 1-to-1 ratio, and this is not a linear problem. When you test at 8 to 1, it is not a safe area. That's why I keep emphasizing here you need 8%. So that is a very, very strong result that we are getting from all of these thousands of studies. So this number is not made up. Your index is necessary to be below 3 to 1 or 2 to 1. Above 8 to 1, you have a very high exponential risk of all these diseases. So again, we grew up on a 1-to-1 ratio. That was our hunters and gatherers uh, life of only eating venison and high omega-3 foods. That is no longer the case. And since the late 20th century, we have been bombarded with seed oils, and we stopped cooking with healthy lard and saturated fat. And that is what's poisoning us now and giving us a very high inflammatory index. So you can see in this study how when you ingest a large amount of omega-3, you will kick out the inflammatory omega-6, which is in green here. The colors are reversed. Only when you ingest a very, very high amount of omega-3, you will kick out your omega-6 and replace it with healthy omega-3. And this ratio is 1-to-1. The body wants to be at this 1-to-1 ratio. The reality is you are testing at over 20-to-1 to begin with. So when you have a very high omega-6 to 3 index, you are suffering from a high amount of leaky gut. That's where most inflammation starts from. Your endothelial cells in the gut literally break down. Omega-3 keeps them together and healthy. And of course, they are forming a very stable arterial function that keeps your blood pressure and everything else in check. So in addition, without omega-3, you cannot make aerobic energy. So we see in this uh, crystal structure here that omega-3 binds directly to the protein that makes aerobic energy. This actually is proven evidence that omega-3 needs to be inside the membrane to keep those proteins happy in the mitochondria to make energy. Without functional mitochondria, you make very little energy. It is 30 times more energy that the mitochondria provide for you. That is aerobic energy, and that's when you actually use your oxygen. So in summary, your omega-6 to 3 index needs to be very low, and it keeps your blood vessels healthy, and it keeps your inflammatory index low, and then your cells in your arteries and in your gut can actually do their job and not leak systemic inflammation that will then turn into systemic joint inflammation. We now talk about leaky joints, leaky teeth, leaky ears, and so on. So even a 73-year-old can improve their test significantly. She started only with 1.3% and basically more than quadrupled her omega-3 in a short time. Some people even get to balance, and that is basically what we do. At any age, you can rapidly improve with our product. The United States average is 22-to-1. We've done 1.7 million tests worldwide, and the US now has 63,000 tests. That is an old slide here. Worldwide, you will see that even traditional fishing countries like Norway and Japan are in a very high inflammatory state, over 10-to-1. And that is why Zinzino was actually founded in Norway, because they understood this problem is worldwide. And of course, there are countries which are much worse than this. And the winners are Turkey and India at over 40-to-1 inflammatory. If you want to call that a winner, the only country that is still below 10-to-1 is Japan, and that is because they consume a large amount of mackerel naturally. So, depending, it doesn't matter what value you start at. Like I said, India and Turkey and China are very high. With our second test and balance oil, you will end up with a very low second test below 4-to-1. Ideally, you can even get to 2-to-1 all in the green. So once again, your body wants to be at a 1-to-1 ratio of omega-6 to 3 only when you supplement with a very large amount of functional omega-3. So you don't get there with an average other product because they are rancid, and that's what our 1.7 million tests show. So once again, you will start here at 2%. Going to 4% does not help you. Going to 6% is not getting you into the safe zone. Only at 8%, your body will start functioning properly and the healing can start. So how do we do this again? We are testing. Our product comes with a test, a first and a second test. And once again, this is a high-tech fish oil. Getting to these high levels of EPA is not trivial. You have to actually make an effort to enrich the EPA and have that build up in your body. So that is what we're doing. And then we're protecting us with the polyphenols. They will also start healing your gut and make you in a gut state that actually starts stopping that leaky gut and help absorbing the oil. So all of that said, most oils are rancid. How do we know? We've done 1.7 million tests, and basically only Zenzino can start healing your gut together with our entire health protocol. And for that, we now have a gut health test that will actually test your leaky gut and will prove to you that you will also need to add fiber, and that fiber is feeding the healthy gut flora in your large intestine. Probiotics do not do that. You need special fiber for that, a special blend of fiber. And there are obviously other components to our health protocol. And together with the gut health test, now we can prove that this situation does not need to be the norm, and you can get back to 8% where you are safe. So yeah, let me know if this all is of interest to you and contact us at omega3health.us.